It's been exactly a week since the review of a brand new ban list that has been applied to Vanguard, and over time I have been seeing people have an argument on whether is this a good ban or a bad ban. And in my honest opinion here, I do think it is a good ban, and I'm gonna be explaining the reason why each of the ban is very important. And do note that this gonna go into a little bit of a nitpicking on a certain deck building choice as well, so do bear with me. Okay, so let's start off with not really a ban list first, but a restriction rules to a deck building for the standard format, and that is the fact that if you're going to use a stride deck set, you have to use the original right line that comes with the deck set.
What?
This will sound a little bit weird of a lock for a lot of people, but it is made to particularly targeted at one very specific right line, Shiranui. You see, Shiranui has a stealth in its name, which means that it technically is able to utilize stealth engine in general, and because of that, a lot of people chose to go with grade 2 Shoujouraji instead of Genkai.
How could this happen to me?
Choosing Shoujouraji as a right line does bring a few advantage points for that, and the very first one is a very obvious one. It is the fact that with Shoujouraji skill, you technically thin your deck down by 2 cards and actually have a board on the field. The fact that you can just get a free call from deck easily with Shoujouraji is a huge plus already, but in my honest opinion, it is what it is enabling that actually makes things really busted in my opinion. You see, Shoujouraji grade 2 is not just giving an early game advantage, but it actually giving you an access to a particular card, and that is Izao. Izao has ability where when you place him on Record Circle, you can counterblast one to actually check your top 5 for a stealth card and add it to your hand. And you know what card Shiranui play that actually require you to have a stealth card in their name? Well, technically there's 3, and that is of course Furai, Sekie, and of course the most importantly Utsuroi, which is a PG. The fact that Shoujouraji actually give access to this many toolbox just by running himself in the right line
Sometimes things are more interesting if you keep a level playing field.
really fix one of the biggest issue with Shiranui, and to an extension all of the stride deck in general, and that is the early game. It gives a really good early game for Shiranui, which makes it harder for opponent to respond in the later part of the game, which actually correlate to a second point that I want to talk about Shiranui, and that is his restriction list. So for those who need a little bit of a refresher, his restriction is overall with Dragvida, the Dragon Empire OT. Some people might say this is a really harsh ban on Shiranui, but I personally do not think so. And the reason behind that is because Shiranui takes way too much advantage on just a single Vanguard restand. Let me explain. You see, most of the Shiranui deck list most likely will run a bunch of Furai, Sekie, Esperaridia, which makes the deck always have access to a restander. And because most of these units, with the exception of Esperaridia, do not have a fixed once per turn, this means that as long as you trigger Dragvida for him to restand, this means that this Furai will get another attack. This gives Shiranui way too much advantage because it literally just gives Shiranui not just additional 1 attack, but rather additional 3 attack, and kind of inflate maximum attack that Shiranui can actually make in one game up to 10 attacks, and a hand increment with a minimum of 6 cards in the hand just from drive shaking.
Genuinely disgusting.
So yeah, this banlist is there to prevent Shiranui from having way too much advantage, and in my honest opinion, it does hurt Shiranui a lot because not only Shiranui lost an early game advantage, they also lost the late game advantage, or I would say OT chance advantage. But I do not think it is a complete shutdown for Shiranui, as most of the main card that Shiranui still run still exists. So I don't think it's gonna be a complete shutdown for the Shiranui, but it definitely allows some of the other decks that is in lower tier to actually have a chance against Shiranui, which in my honest opinion is a good thing. And when speaking of early game, that is exactly the other stride deck set that got banned in this ban list. Luarte actually gotten, as his restriction list is Luarte and Serugaon. We all know Serugaon is easily one of the most broken cards in the Kita right now, so I'm not gonna go into deep detail here, but to put it simply, Serugaon give easy huge advantage for any deck that can utilize it or abuse it in Luarte's case, and the fact that Luarte can reuse Serugaon very easily almost every turn really make him gain way too much advantage that I think Bushro wasn't expecting. And this is on top of the fact that Luarte is already a very tanky deck to begin with. So to me, try restricting this particular dog with Luarte actually actually it makes sense, which means that Luarte now has to rely heavily on his own engine to actually tank now. And in all fairness, it is still good because you still have access to deodoring, which does give you a PG every turn. The grade 1 from the DBT12, I think, which is kind of like a Honoli for Kita specifically. And of course, if you want more draw power, just run Painkiller. It won't have the same effect as Sirugaon because of the power increase, but it still makes Luarte very tanky nonetheless. And that is pretty much the ban part of the ban list. But we still have one more particular entry to talk about, and that is under restriction on Elvira and Virtual Blanc for Villistar. This particular entry, there's nothing much to say about it because of the fact that it was banned to limit the power of Villistar at the time. Because during the time that before it was banned, Villistar was easily one of the strongest deck, and the reason why she was able to climb up to the top despite the Gandiva running rampant in the meta is because of the fact that you are able to reuse Virtual Blanc every single turn. Because of the fact that Ophelia sent one card from your back row center back to the bottom of the deck, which allow player to reuse Virtual Blanc over and over. And on top of that, Virtual Blanc also has a slight synergy with Villistar because of Villistar's ability to search for gem card at the cost of this card when she ride onto the Vanguard circle.
Synergy.
So some of you might ask, is she gonna be meta again? And the answer to that is actually yes. There is a high possibility chance that Villistar might be in the meta again due to an existence of a certain brand new card, Prisia. Prisia allow you to literally just return Ophelia from your field back to hand, allowing you to actually making sure that you have enough offense to play into the second turn. And there's nothing else much to talk about the deck because of the fact that the deck already have a strong defense. Prisia just buff it up even further while still making sure that Villistar will not lose the key attacker from their deck. And that is pretty much my thoughts on the ban list. Overall, I think this is a better ban list than a lot of people credit it to be, at least in my opinion. So do leave down in the comments below whether is this a good ban list for you guys. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Take care of yourself, and this is Mac Megane signing out.